Hi, my name's Natalie Pikonik and I'm here today with my second Close to My Heart sub box flip. If you do not know what the Close to My Heart subscription box is, it is a box that you can get every 4 months and each month has 2 layouts already planned. As you can see on the screen, this is the one that is for May, the second one. I have done the first one for May. If you want to pop back on my channel and you can find it there. The layouts come with all the base pages already done for you, and then here are all the bits in their original form. You can see the stickers, the cutouts, and all the little bits that we need, including those 2 base pages. Here I've already cut the base pages down into little bits, knowing that I'm going to adjust a little bit. I've grabbed 2 pieces of white cardstock, and now I'm just going to start putting it back together the way that I'd like it. Now, I know some of you are like, why would you do this when it's a beautiful page to start off with? But I like to give people other ideas of how they can use them. If you get one in your sub box and you're not quite happy with the layout, you can change it. You don't have to keep it the same. I love the oranges in this layout, but the photos that immediately come to mind were these photos of my son. Now, he's now 12, so these are quite old. But I love the orange in his shirt and how cheeky he is back then. So they did not fit the layout. They didn't work with my layout or with the layout. So I knew that I wanted that, and I wanted some pops of black here and there. So I'm just looking at what I can do now to use the photos that I really love and use the pieces from the kit. I quite early on realized I wanted to use this grid in between those 2 orange strips, but the problem there was there wasn't quite enough of that. So you'll see me make the best use of that paper a little bit later on. So this is the diagonal paper. Again, there's a few little strips, so I'm going to cut it down into 1-inch strips, and I'm going to add it around the inside of both pages. So I'm going to pop that there, and I'll move a few more bits and pieces around. I look at the zigzag and think maybe I need a second one on the other side. So I had another strip of black, and I drew that on the back and cut that out. I actually later abandoned that idea, and but I do make use of most of the black pieces of paper along the way. So that was my little idea there. That gets abandoned, as many of my ideas do. And you'll see me thinking maybe a little strip, maybe I can put it at the top, maybe I can put it at the bottom. I've adhered the orange strips down with just enough space for that grid to go in between the 2 of them. I've cut some little strips of black, and what I'm planning to do is just put a border around the outside edge of the orange. In my previous life, I probably would have mounted that all in a whole black sheet. I probably would have cut up 2 sheets to do that. I love how Close to My Heart has actually taught me how to make a lot better use of my papers. Let me know if you get a subscription box, and let me know what you do with it. Do you keep the pages just as they are and have them as quick, easy pages and document your life? Or do you do what I do and go a little bit rogue and cut them all up? I'd love to know, and I'd love to see if you've done this May project. Let me know what you've done. Pop a message to me, pop a photo in the comments. I'd like to hear what everybody else is up to as well. I decided very early on I wanted the photos to be matted in black, so I went ahead and did that, and then trimmed them just so they had a very small border of black. I think it makes the photos pop, especially with the orange in them. The other thing I deliberately did with my photos was I went from small photo from the furthest away to graduating to when he was the closest to the camera at the end. And that just gives that perspective of him coming closer and closer. I trim off all those little extra bits that I've popped on. And then I'm going to start thinking about where my grid paper is going to go. So I know that I don't have enough. and I know I'm going to have to stretch that as much as I possibly can. So I start by marking off what I need to slip behind here. I change my mind later and I rip this off. If you watched any of my videos, that's a common theme in my videos, is taking things off and putting them back on again. But thinking that that black was going to go on that outside edge, I thought I'd pop it there. And then I'm cutting some small strips because you're only going to see like an inch between each photo. So I'm cutting those strips down, making sure that I've got it covering under where the photos are going to go. So I'll pop one in there and then I'll cut another small strip for the end. So I like this grid paper. It's just adds a little bit in that behind the photos, but it doesn't overpower them. Although I do cover up lots of it at the end. We'll wait and see for that bit. And that's sort of, I'm thinking about turning that around and what's going to go on those ends. And ripping that piece up, I'm going to put that over the other side. So I do make use of it even though I've cut it up. And I realise I want a full bit on the end because that's when I sort of start to realise I'm not going to use those black zigzags on the ends. So when I cut these pieces, I'm just rough cutting them, and then I'm going to trim off the edges when I've got all the pieces in place. So I don't have to be too fussy about what I cut, and if the edges are really straight, you just won't see those bits. So again, I'm marking. You'll see that I put a little grey lead mark there, so I know that that's the area it's going to have to cover. Otherwise, if you pop it down and you're just guessing, you might find that it's not in the exact area that you need. And then I go to fit this piece, doesn't quite fit, grab the other piece. And you see, I've actually done really well here because I've got like a couple of little strips of this left, which I did not think was going to happen at the start. I thought I was going to be really tight for how much I needed. So and just moving that little bit, it had a little gap there I wasn't happy with. Okay, quick tidy up, and I'm thinking about what I will be doing next. And I start looking at the aqua paper that's in there and thinking what I can do to add that. And I decide that I want it a little bit down in the bottom right and a little bit in the top left. So here I go marking it, and then I've decided I was going to try use the two pieces, and I cut, and you'll see in a minute that I completely stuff up because I've cut the wrong bit. So I look at it for a few seconds, go, oh, I'm going to have to meld that back together and go back in there and cut the other side. So it was easily fixed. And then after fixing that bit of a boo-boo up, I glue it down. Pop it there. I want it just showing out just a little bit out of the edge and a little bit below the photos. Then I go into the other side, and on that side I actually just put the whole strip down. I don't cut it out as much. I maybe should have, but yeah, it's just what I did at the time. This has got the little bit of journaling on the side. I don't actually use it for journaling, but it just adds a little bit of texture behind the photos as well. Just moving a few things around, seeing where I'm going to pop those tags and what it's going to look like, whether I want them on the top, on the bottom. I've added Magic Mount to the photos. I'm still using up my previous supply of Magic Mount. So yes, this one isn't close to my heart, but I'm just doing those. And on this one, you will see that I actually just peel up that yellow, leave it to the side, and only sticking down the bottom because I know I want to put the tags and bits and pieces behind later. And if I take all the Magic Mount off, it's going to make it harder. The little tags sitting out the side just mean that I can go in afterwards and rip it out. Now, while I was off camera, I did stick the "You Did It" onto the black, and I also did the "Yay." Now, the "Yay" is black lettering, but I took the lettering out and trimmed around the outside so I'd get the orange inside and the orange on the outside. I wanted a bit of orange and a bit of black to complement the black block that is on the top. This is where I move things around again, and if you watch closely down the bottom in that corner, this is how I did the lettering. So I had taken out the orange flags that were inside, trimmed, put the outside leftover part of the sticker on, and then trimmed around the colors so that there's a orange border with the cardstock below. So that's exactly how I did it with the lettering, but I just didn't record it. Moving a couple of more things around, looking where I'm going to put that number 1, whether I'm going to put it on the side. Eventually I move the stripy tag over to the other side and the dotty one on to the right. The stripy didn't clash as much over there, sort of like didn't slink away. But I do also, right at the end, put some black texture on those tags just to make them stand out a little bit more. This is probably my favourite part about putting a layout together, is those final little touches where you can move things up and down and around until you're happy with exactly where they all are. I love that feeling of finding the right spot for the right embellishment and then moving on from there. It's one of the best parts about our craft, I think. So pop those in. I'm going to magic mount the flag up a little bit, but glue the poles sort of behind the photo so it looks like it's coming out. I finally get around to gluing that "You Just Did It" at the top. And as I said before, I go in with those markers and I just do a little bit of a line around my 2 tags. I just think that the tags needed to pop a little bit more, and I wish so much that I'd actually done some black inking around the edge of those 2 tags. But by the time I'd thought about it, I had already moved on and glued them in, so too late. I'm looking at the top now and I don't really like where the "You Did It" ends right on the edge of the page. So I'm just going to cut a little bit of black there and trim it so that it looks like it follows on over to the second page and that it just doesn't stop abruptly. And that just made my mind at ease with that little bit. Now, the other thing that I'm not really happy with is you will see where I did have those black borders along the outside edge, and my banners have kind of covered it up. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to re-put in that little bit of a black border. So you'll see me fussing here, cutting a couple of little bits and then gluing them over the top of the blue or the aqua blue banner bit. So it was just, it's like I knew they were meant to be there and they weren't, and I wasn't going to be happy until I'd fixed that little bit up. And I think it was well worth going in and taking the time to do that, because it does make a little bit of difference to that frame. It's not cut short. So popping this last little bit in, I went down underneath that. Thank goodness I didn't stick that little flag on, because that would have been a real nightmare to get underneath. And that is pretty much done. Now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending your time with me today. And I'd love to hear what you think of this one. Did I improve it? Did I make it worse? Is this something that you would like to do? Please leave a comment. And if you do have time, hit the subscribe button and check out some of my other videos. Thank you very much. Bye.